In a piece in Newsweek, my guest says black voters are getting tired of politics as usual. We need real solutions to pressing problems like income inequality and violent crime, not meaningless posturing and policies designed solely to assuage white guilt. End of quote. Please welcome Daquan Bruce, Executive Director of Concerned Communities for America. Daquan, are you telling me you're not down with reparations?
Yeah, that's a big conversation, but more than anything, I am, here for the realistic support of our Black community. And it starts by, telling the truth about what's going on, about what people are thinking, about what people are truly concerned about.
In your piece, you talk about white guilt. And I've been saying this for years, Daquan. Whoever said compound interest is the greatest force in the universe never encountered white guilt. It is a force to behold.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at the whole organization. Like, they raised millions of dollars just on making people feel guilty about stuff that we have no control over.
I think it was like $90 million one year. And one of the founders, Patrisse Cullors, bought a bunch of houses.
White guilt pays the bills, apparently.
So talk to me about what Black people need to do to build wealth.
Well, first and foremost, we need better access to capital. CCA, we've gone around the country holding these listening tours as part of our Conversations with Black America event, and we've hosted a number of events with business owners. And the number one comment, the number one requirement that they're looking for to grow their business is capital. New entrepreneurs need to learn how to access capital and resources. And that is how we grow and revive, as a mentor of mine likes to say, wealth in the Black community. We need to be looking at ourselves more as owners of our communities, as opposed to just participants in the local economy, or even just, bystanders who watch, the country thrive and grow and sit on the wayside.
Right.
But more importantly, we need to remove the victim mentality from ourselves and see ourselves as victors of the situation, understanding that there are tons of programs, there are tons of resources available to us and available to all Americans to really go out there, start an enterprise, grow and scale it. But it's all about how much work we're going to put into it for ourselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Back in 1997, Time Magazine and CNN did a study of Black teenagers and white teenagers. And Daquan, I mentioned this the last time I was on CNN, which is why it was the last time I was on CNN. I was on Don Lemon's show. And I said,
Wow.
25 years ago, your organization hooked up with Time Magazine to do a study on the attitude about race regarding Black teenagers and white teenagers. And both of them thought that racism was a major problem in America. But then they asked a follow-up question of the Black teenagers, which I had never seen anybody do before, Daquan. They asked the Black teens if racism was a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in their own daily lives. 89% of Black teenagers said it was a small problem or no problem. Wow. In fact, more Black teenagers said yes to the following proposition than white teenagers did. Failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism. More Black teens said yes to that than white teens did. And I mentioned that to Don Lemon. Again, as I said, that was the last time I was on CNN. I don't know why.
Wow. Like that is truly impressive, but a realistic view of how the community feels. I was actually talking to a group of students a while back. This was maybe like 3 weeks ago, about paying for college, right? And all of these students were like, oh yeah, I don't want to have to take out student loans. So, I just don't know what I want to do. Maybe I'll just not go to college, right? And when I began to lay out for them all the available scholarships and financial aid resources that were available, many of them, you would have thought like I just like handed them like a bag of gold or something. They were so shocked. They were like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I can apply for this scholarship and, my grades allow me to qualify for this. And I was telling them, like, you just have to go out there and find it. But there's so much out here. There's so much available to us. But we, there's a quote from the Bible that says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge, right? And, while that does have contextual significance, it applies to everything. Many people don't have the knowledge that they need or the wherewithal to go out there and get the knowledge, in order to build wealth, in order to combat racism and realize that what you're hearing in the media, what the left is pushing to you is not the truth. But we're so quick to accept these things as truth when they are, lies that people propagate so that they can just amass
Right.
more and more power. Look at the
You
current
know,
makeup of our government.
Daquan, there are thousands of colleges and universities in America, from really inexpensive ones up until Harvard and everything in between. And the broker you are, the more programs there are for you. Here's what you write in your piece. Instead of stimulus checks, food stamps, and more public housing, we need policies that make it easier for Black and brown Americans to start and grow businesses and become homeowners, end of quote. And I've often argued that the welfare state has done a great deal of damage to Black people. In 1965, 25% of Black kids entered the world without a father in the home married to the mother. Now that number is 70%. You're not going to tell me that America was more racist today than it was back in 1965. And the answer is, in my opinion, Daquan, we have incentivized women to marry the government, have incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibilities with all these social programs that you talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's 100% the case. And a prime example of this is just the push for abortion. We take the man completely out of the conversation and say that this is a woman's thing, this is a woman's choice, right? But it takes two, right? Just like it takes two to be a family, it takes two parents. It takes, a community. And we have completely removed ourselves from all of those variables that make it, a factor for our success, and has turned to the government to be the provider of all those things that the man in the household provides. But that was never the government's role. And, in our community, it's unfortunate reality that, many parents are passing down, the tricks and schemes to get more out of the social welfare programs, as opposed to the tips and tricks that you need to start and grow a business. And I'm very fortunate, that I, grew up with parents who really instilled in me the value of hard work. My mom was a single mom until I was 15 years old when my stepdad came into my life. But from, my childhood, our earliest memories was, if there was something that you wanted, you worked for it. My mom started my first business for me when I was 8 years old. We were selling clothes out the back of her car. I kid you not. Kid you not. We went and found some really cheap outfits down in the city of Chicago, and we would take them, to the suburbs and sell them. And that was how I made money. And that instilled in me this entrepreneurial mindset that no matter what people say, no matter what people do, they cannot stop me from providing for myself and for my family. They cannot stop my potential. The only thing that can do that is me, and our community really needs to understand that.
Well, despite the U.S. blowing right through the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling in January, the leftist White House still refuses to reduce spending. While our national leadership has buried their heads in the sand when it comes to fiscal responsibility, it is time to pull yours out. Now would be a great time to diversify into gold with Birch Gold. In times of high uncertainty and instability, gold is king. It's dependable. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold, and then talk to one of their precious metal specialists. Think about this. To dig our country out of this mountain of debt, every single taxpayer in America would have to write a check for $247,000, and it's only getting worse. Protect yourself with gold today by visiting LarryForGold.com. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews, you can trust Birch Gold to protect your future. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com right now. Now, last question, Daquan. You have rejected what I call the victocrat mentality because of your background, because of your parents. How are people reacting to you? How many different ways have you been called an Uncle Tom? How many different languages?
In all the languages I speak, I've heard it. But it's crazy because as I go out into the communities and I really sit down and talk to people, we agree on more than we disagree on, right?
I think,
But you have to kind of lead people to that, to the basis of their understanding, a basis of their beliefs, and we see that it's all rooted in the same values, right? But when people look at it on the outside, yeah, they see you as an Uncle Tom, they see you, as every slur in the book. One time in particular, in 2016, I was campaigning down in Louisiana, and a lady literally in the middle of traffic, stopped her car and got out of her car and proceeded to call me every name that I can't say on air. And she, was, you're a traitor and all this stuff. She doesn't know anything about me. She doesn't know anything about the work that I've done and I continue to do in my community, right? But because she saw, me out campaigning for a Republican, she was furious. And it was a white woman who came to my aid. And when I just stood there and took it. And this white woman stepped up and she, read this woman right. She told her, she's like, you have no idea who this man is. You have no idea that this young black man who you're berating for his political beliefs was shot in the streets. And that is why, he campaigns the way he does, because he doesn't want to see anyone else, murdered or killed in their community, without sense, without, any reason. You don't know that he's given, thousands of dollars to help other young people start businesses and just education programs. But she didn't see that. And it took a white woman to stand up for me. And that was a moment in my time. I was like, you know what? I don't care what people say about me. As long as I continue to do what's right, I know that there are people who will see it and who will understand it and they will fight on my behalf. And that's how I continue to proceed to this day.
Well, it took a white woman to stand down the other white woman. And we started out this conversation by saying, whoever said compound interest is the greatest force in the universe never encountered white guilt. Daquan, I did a video on Don Lemon, Joy Reid of MSNBC, Minister Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. You know what they all have in common? They're all multi-millionaires telling you, as a black person, you can't become one. What's wrong with this picture? Daquan, Bruce, tell me the name of your organization again.
Yeah, we're called Concerned Communities for America. You can find us on Twitter at CC_4A and on Instagram at Concerned Communities for America.
Daquan, Bruce, stay in touch. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know you guys are liking these giveaways, and this time it's going to be the best one yet. Are you ready? For this giveaway, I want to invite you to join me for dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. That's right, you heard me right. Fine dining with the great Eldersky. We can talk about anything you want, and I'll answer all your questions. Well, mostly all your questions. It'll be a great time for sure, so hurry up and go to winlarry.com to sign up. I'll be announcing the winner live on February 22nd, so make sure to stay tuned.